It's October 28, 1977. A record store manager in Nottingham, England gets arrested simply for displaying an album cover in his window. The album, Mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, two other albums are battling for the #1 spot on the Billboard charts, creating a cultural war that would define an entire generation. 1977 wasn't just another year in music history. It was the year that changed everything. From the punk revolution that terrified governments to mainstream rock anthems that still fill stadiums today, these 10 songs didn't just top charts, they rewrote the rules of what music could be and do. Stay with me as we dive deep into the most explosive year in rock history and discover how these tracks shaped not just music, but an entire generation's identity. What makes these 10 songs so special isn't just their musical quality, but their timing. They captured a generation caught between the optimism of the 1960s and the cynicism that would define the 1980s. These weren't just songs, they were anthems of rebellion, statements of identity, and soundtracks to a cultural revolution that's still reverberating today. Song number 10, Psycho Killer, Talking Heads. Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is a track that proved art rock could be just as dangerous as punk rock. Talking Heads' Psycho Killer was released as the lead single from their debut album Talking Heads 77, and it immediately set them apart from everything else happening in music. Written by David Byrne, Chris Frantz, and Tina Weymouth, the song was directly inspired by Norman Bates from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. But this wasn't just shock value. It was sophisticated psychological horror wrapped in an irresistible groove. The song's French lyrics in the bridge weren't pretentious art school posturing. They were Byrne's attempt to capture the fractured mindset of someone losing their grip on reality. What made Psycho Killer Generation defining was how it bridged the gap between punk's raw energy and new wave's intellectual approach. While the Sex Pistols were screaming about anarchy, Talking Heads were exploring the darkness lurking in suburban America's psyche. The song's nervous energy and Byrne's twitchy delivery captured the anxiety of a generation that was starting to question everything they'd been told about American society. The track's influence extended far beyond 1977. Duran Duran would later cover it, proving its lasting impact on the next generation of musicians. More importantly, it established the template for art rock that would dominate the 1980s alternative scene. Song number 9, Lust for Life, Iggy Pop. At number 9, we have a song that literally saved its creator's life while defining punk rock's potential for redemption. Iggy Pop's Lust for Life, co-written with David Bowie, emerged from one of the most creative partnerships in rock history during their legendary Berlin period. The song's creation story is almost as powerful as the track itself. Pop and Bowie were living in West Berlin, both trying to overcome serious drug addictions. The song's famous drum beat, performed by Hunt Sales, wasn't actually original. It was a reinterpretation of the rhythm from the Supremes' 1966 hit, You Can't Hurry Love. But in Pop's hands, that Motown groove became a primal scream of survival and renewal. Carlos Alomar, the session guitarist, said the riff was so dominant that it was impossible for anyone not to get caught up in its momentum. The lyrics reflected the health regime both Bowie and Pop were following in Berlin. No more beating my brains with the liquor and drugs. This wasn't just a rock song, it was a manifesto of recovery and rebirth. The track gained renewed cultural significance in 1996 when it was featured in the film Trainspotting, introducing it to a whole new generation. But even in 1977, it proved that punk rock didn't have to be nihilistic. It could be life-affirming, even while maintaining its raw edge and uncompromising attitude. Song number 8, Marquee Moon, Television. Number 8 takes us to the sophisticated side of the punk revolution with Television's 10-minute masterpiece, Marquee Moon. This track proved that punk didn't have to be simple or short to be powerful. Television, led by Tom Verlaine, emerged from New York's CBGB scene alongside the Ramones and Talking Heads, but their approach was radically different. While other punk bands stripped rock down to its bare essentials, Television rebuilt it from the ground up with complex guitar interplay and poetic lyrics. Marquee Moon was the centerpiece of their debut album, which ranked 5th on NME's prestigious year-end list for 1977. The song's structure defied every rule of commercial radio. At nearly 10 minutes long, with intricate guitar solos and abstract lyrics, it shouldn't have worked. But Verlaine's guitar work was so mesmerizing and the band's chemistry so tight that the song became hypnotic rather than indulgent. Richard Lloyd's rhythm guitar provided the perfect counterpoint to Verlaine's lead, creating a sonic landscape that was both challenging and beautiful. Marquee Moon influenced countless alternative and indie rock bands over the following decades. From Sonic Youth to The Strokes, musicians continue to cite television as a primary influence. The song proved that punk rock could be intellectual without losing its emotional impact, sophisticated without becoming pretentious. Song number 7, We Are the Champions, Queen. At number 7, we shift from underground art rock to arena-conquering anthems with Queen's We Are the Champions. Written by Freddie Mercury and released as part of Queen's News of the World album, this track became one of the most enduring victory songs in rock history. Mercury wrote the song specifically as a crowd participation anthem. He understood better than almost any other rock performer how to create moments of mass unity in live settings. The song's structure builds from intimate verses to an explosive, communal chorus that practically demands audience participation. Mercury said the "we" in the song's title referred to everyone singing it, the band and their fans united in a moment of triumph. What made We Are the Champions generation-defining wasn't just its musical power, but its timing. 1977 was a year when many young people felt disillusioned with traditional institutions. The song offered an alternative form of empowerment, not through political revolution like punk rock, but through collective celebration and personal achievement. The track's influence on sports culture cannot be overstated. From the World Cup to the Olympics, We Are the Champions became the unofficial anthem of victory worldwide. It proved that rock music could create moments of genuine human connection and celebration, even in an increasingly cynical world. Interestingly, Queen was recording News of the World at Wessex Studios at the same time the Sex Pistols were recording Mind the Bollocks in the same facility. According to Johnny Rotten, Brian May even asked him to provide backing vocals for a Queen track, showing how the different sides of 1977's rock revolution were more connected than they appeared. Song number 6, White Riot, The Clash. Number 6 brings us to one of punk rock's most politically charged anthems, The Clash's White Riot. This track perfectly captured the social tensions and frustrated energy that made 1977 such a volatile year. The Clash, inspired by witnessing the Sex Pistols live in 1976, represented punk rock's more politically conscious wing. While the Sex Pistols focused on nihilistic destruction, The Clash channeled punk's energy towards social commentary and change. White Riot emerged from the band's observations of the Notting Hill Carnival riots, where they witnessed the power of collective action and social upheaval. The song's controlled chaos perfectly matched its message. Joe Strummer's urgent vocals and Mick Jones's driving guitar created a sense of barely contained energy that could explode at any moment. This wasn't random destruction, it was focused anger with a purpose. The track established The Clash as punk rock's political conscience, a role they would maintain throughout their career. What made White Riot generation-defining was how it connected punk's musical rebellion with real-world political issues. While other genres ignored social problems or addressed them in abstract terms, The Clash brought urgent political commentary to three-chord rock and roll. The song influenced countless punk and alternative bands who wanted their music to matter beyond entertainment. The track's legacy extends far beyond music. It became a template for how rock music could address social issues directly and powerfully, influencing everyone from U2 to Rage Against the Machine. Song number 5, Heroes, David Bowie. At the halfway point of our countdown, we encountered David Bowie's Heroes, a song that topped NME's prestigious albums chart for 1977 and proved that artistic innovation could coexist with emotional power. Heroes emerged from Bowie's Berlin period, recorded at Hansa Studios by the Berlin Wall. The song's creation was deeply influenced by the divided city's atmosphere of tension and hope. According to legend, Bowie wrote the lyrics after seeing his producer Tony Visconti kissing a woman by the Berlin Wall, but the song transcended its origins to become a universal anthem of love conquering impossible circumstances. The track's production was revolutionary. Bowie and producer Tony Visconti used 3 microphones at different distances from the vocals, creating a sense of space and distance that perfectly matched the song's themes. Robert Fripp's guitar work provided soaring, heroic lines that elevated the entire composition. The result was a song that sounded both intimate and epic, personal and universal. What made Heroes generation-defining was how it captured the paradox of the late 1970s. a period when global tensions were increasing, but individual expression and artistic freedom were reaching new heights. The song suggested that even in the darkest circumstances, human connection and artistic creation could provide meaning and hope. The track's influence on subsequent music is immeasurable. From U2's stadium anthems to alternative rock's emotional intensity, Heroes proved that art rock could be both intellectually sophisticated and deeply moving. It remains one of Bowie's most beloved songs and a touchstone for artists seeking to combine innovation with emotion. Song number 4, Go Your Own Way, Fleetwood Mac. Number 4 takes us into the personal drama that created some of 1977's most enduring music, Fleetwood Mac's Go Your Own Way. This track was the first single from Rumours, the album that would define what mainstream rock could achieve when personal pain was transformed into universal art. Written by Lindsey Buckingham about his breakup with Stevie Nicks, Go Your Own Way turned private heartbreak into public catharsis. The song's creation was part of the emotional holocaust that consumed Fleetwood Mac during the Rumours sessions. John and Christine McVie were divorcing, Buckingham and Nicks had ended their romantic relationship, and Mick Fleetwood was dealing with his own marital problems. What made the song extraordinary wasn't just its emotional honesty, but its musical sophistication. Buckingham's guitar work was both aggressive and melodic, perfectly capturing the mixture of anger and loss that comes with the end of a relationship. The rhythm section, despite their personal turmoil, created a driving groove that made the song irresistible on radio and in concert. The track's success was immediate and lasting. It helped propel Rumours to become one of the best-selling albums of all time, with over 40 million copies sold worldwide. More importantly, it proved that rock music could address adult relationships and emotional complexity without losing its power or appeal. Go Your Own Way became the template for how personal drama could fuel great art. The song's influence can be heard in everything from 1980s pop rock to contemporary indie music, wherever artists transform their personal pain into universal anthems. Song number 3, Hotel California, Eagles. Our top 3 begins with the Eagles' Hotel California, a song that dominated the charts for 8 non-consecutive weeks in 1977 and became one of rock's most analyzed and debated compositions. Hotel California represented the dark side of the American dream, capturing the disillusionment that was setting in as the 1960s optimism gave way to 1970s cynicism. Glenn Frey said the band wanted to capture the spirit of the times, and they succeeded in creating a musical metaphor for American excess and spiritual emptiness that resonated far beyond the music industry. The song's creation involved the entire band, with Don Felder providing the iconic guitar riff, Don Henley crafting most of the lyrics, and Glenn Frey contributing to the overall concept. The result was a nearly 7-minute epic that worked both as a radio single and a concert showstopper. The dual guitar solo by Felder and Joe Walsh became one of rock's most celebrated instrumental passages. What made Hotel California generation-defining was how it captured the particular anxiety of the mid-1970s, a period when American society was questioning its values and direction following Vietnam, Watergate, and economic uncertainty. The song's mysterious narrative and ominous atmosphere reflected a generation's growing awareness that the promise of endless prosperity and happiness might be an illusion. The track's enduring popularity proves its lasting relevance. Decades after its release, Hotel California continues to be analyzed, covered, and referenced by musicians and cultural commentators. It established the template for rock music as social commentary, proving that popular music could address serious themes without sacrificing commercial appeal. Song number 2, Anarchy in the UK, Sex Pistols. At number 2, we reach the song that literally started a revolution, the Sex Pistols, Anarchy in the UK. This track didn't just define 1977, it created the blueprint for punk rock and changed the course of popular music forever. Anarchy in the UK emerged from the specific social and economic conditions of mid-1970s Britain. High unemployment, social unrest, and a sense that traditional institutions had failed created the perfect environment for punk rock's emergence. Johnny Rotten's lyrics weren't sophisticated political theory. They were the raw expression of frustrated youth who felt completely disconnected from mainstream society. The song's power came from its directness and authenticity. While progressive rock bands were creating complex concept albums, the Sex Pistols stripped rock down to its essential elements: 3 chords, a driving beat, and pure attitude. Steve Jones' guitar work was deliberately primitive, but undeniably powerful, while Paul Cook's drumming provided the relentless energy that drove the song forward. What made Anarchy in the UK generation defining was how it gave voice to feelings that had been building throughout the 1970s, but had never been expressed so directly in popular music. The song wasn't about political revolution in any organized sense. It was about rejecting a society that offered nothing meaningful to young people. The track's influence extended far beyond music. It inspired fashion, art, and social movements worldwide, from the safety pins and torn clothing of punk fashion to the DIY ethics that would later fuel indie rock and hip-hop. Anarchy in the UK proved that music could be a catalyst for cultural change. Song number 1, Never Mind the Bollocks. Sex Pistols. Our number 1 song, or rather album, is the Sex Pistols' Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, released on October 28, 1977. This wasn't just an album, it was a cultural bomb that exploded everything people thought they knew about rock. The album's impact was immediate and unprecedented. Record store managers were arrested for displaying the cover. The BBC banned multiple tracks. The band had to tour under the pseudonym SPOTS. Sex Pistols on tour secretly, because they were banned from so many venues. Yet despite, or perhaps because of, this controversy, the album shot to number 1 in the UK and became one of the most influential rock records ever made. What made Never Mind the Bollocks generation defining wasn't just its musical content, but its complete rejection of the music industry's established rules. While other rock acts were becoming increasingly polished and professional, the Sex Pistols celebrated amateurism and authenticity. Their music was deliberately rough and confrontational, but it contained great songs underneath the noise. Rolling Stone called it the most exciting rock and roll record of the 70s, while later ranking it among the greatest albums of all time. The album proved that rock music didn't need expensive production or virtuoso musicianship to be powerful. It needed passion, attitude, and something important to say. The album's influence on subsequent music cannot be overstated. It directly inspired thousands of punk bands worldwide and established the template for alternative rock. From Nirvana to Green Day, countless artists have cited Never Mind the Bollocks as a primary influence. The album proved that music could still be dangerous, that it could challenge authority and inspire social change. These 10 songs from 1977 didn't just define a generation. They created multiple generations of musicians and fans who understood that music could be more than entertainment. They proved that rock music could be art, politics, therapy, and revolution all at the same time. The year 1977 marked the moment when rock music split into multiple directions that we're still following today. The punk explosion led to alternative rock, indie music, and countless underground scenes. The mainstream rock achievements of bands like Fleetwood Mac and Queen established templates for arena rock and pop music that remain influential. The art rock innovations of artists like Bowie and Television pointed toward the experimental music that would flourish in the following decades. What's your favorite song from 1977? Did we miss any tracks that you think defined the generation? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the music that changed the world.